Alright, hey guys, if you unboxed your XYZ DaVinci Pro and you started having all kinds of issues with it not printing right and knocking sounds, hammering sounds coming from inside, this is the cure. This is the fix right here. So we're going to make a video on how to make this little device right there and do a design modification that DaVinci should have made themselves. Alright, so the problem with the feed on the DaVinci Pro, normally this has got a zip tie holding this over like this, and as the carriage moves forward it just puts too much of a bind on this hose, on this, you know, it bends it up like that. This hose has always got too much of a bind on it when it's in the position where it can operate. They had this design to be right up here, and obviously that put it in too much of a kink. XYZ's fix for this was to cock it over to the side and zip tie it along with this cable bundle. So we're going to get rid of all that, and actually this is kind of a faux setup here because I've already gotten rid of a lot of this and I've just got this kind of pushed into place here. You might be able to notice that this tube is quite a bit shorter than what you had originally. This information is all out there as far as taking your hot end out of here. So first thing we're going to do is do that. So you've unloaded your filament, push in on that and disconnect that. Now this thing is connected to a little tube which is a big part of the problem. This tube here runs all the way down through the hot end, and as you can see, when they push that over to the side it kinks it, and this binds your filament up. It tries to go through, but it doesn't work out too well. So what we're going to do is avoid any small radius turns on this filament. Reduce the friction that the filament has against the tube to go around smaller radiuses, and to do that I've designed this. I will upload this to Thingiverse, and so the first thing you want to do before you take your printer apart is print off this item here. Now it's not perfect because right down here on the end I built in this little rail so I wouldn't have to put a bunch of support under it. So you'll have to cut this off enough where it can fit into the tube here. And also there are two places you're going to have to get a tap, and the tap is an M5.8. And you'll have to drill this out and tap it right here. If you use the design you download from Thingiverse, you have to drill it out and tap it for this to go in. There's another place that you're going to have to drill and tap also. So if you're not familiar with that kind of stuff, maybe this isn't the fix for you, or maybe you know somebody that's got a little bit of knowledge with machinist type things that can tap things out. This is just a plastic, you know, it's pretty easy to tap, but the metal part that we're going to be tapping down in here, that's a little bit different. This thing we won't have to mess with, so we can just set that aside. This is what you've got to unhook to get your hot end out. I assume you know that. Again, XYZ's got plenty of videos to tell you how to get that out, so I won't go into that. There's 3 screws that go in from the other side with these 3 nuts on them, and that one and that one are a T8 Torx, and this one's like a thumb screw. I don't know why they made that one different, but it is. And I'm gonna see if I can show you guys what that looks like. Okay, here's the upside down view. Hanging the camera in here. So we're gonna be taking out this screw, and this thumb screw over here with the T8 Torx. Once you get those three out, this whole assembly will come out in that direction. I've got all three screws out here. Okay, so that's the unit we're taking out. But your nuts may fall down in these little crevices here. You might need a magnet to get them back out of there. That happened to me the first time.
So there's one last T8 screw holding the release mechanism onto the metal frame, and it is right above the release handle in that spring-loaded area. You'll see that one last T8 Torx, and once you get that out, it'll come right apart.
So as I mentioned earlier, I said there were two things that you have to tap, and this little nozzle goes down into here, like so, and allows the filament to feed down into your hot end. This is the metal thing you have to tap, and you only have to tap it deep enough that your fitting can screw into there. It's not very far, and it's already got a hole in it, so I didn't even have to drill it. I just very carefully started tapping, make sure my tap stayed straight, and I tapped this down just enough to get that fitting in. And then you want to blow this out real good, make sure there's not even metal shavings in there that are going to get down into your nozzle. Alright, the next thing you're going to have to do is drill this out. Now this I've already drilled out, obviously. This hole is much smaller and it's offset to the side, so you have to be careful when you're drilling this hole out, because these two things right here are structural. They give the strength. So you have to stay in between those, although you're starting in a point that's off center, so you kind of have to push your drill bit over to this side to, you know, make sure it gets in. You want to make that hole big enough that your fitting can go down through, like so. So now you're ready to put your release assembly back onto your metal plate now that you've got this tapped out. Oh, and by the way, other than the tap set and the piece of tube that you manufacture with your printer, everything that you need should have come with your printer. Your printer should have come with 2 extra fittings like so, and you will be using both of those fittings. So now that that's assembled, take your little extra piece of tube that you pulled out of this unit, push that down into there. That's going to be your little screwdriver tool. If you've got good clean threads on here, you should be able to drop that right down inside and start it. It'll go most of the way in if you did a good job threading. But to get it the rest of the way in, you open that up and you should be able to use some needle nose pliers and just snug that up. Takes a little bit because you can't get to the flats on the fitting anymore. Now you'll still be able to get to this release if you need to take your tube out for any reason. Just push down on it and pull your tube out. So this metal plate here has got an alignment pin right there. You want to make sure that's in the hole when you get these screws started, so this is straight up and down. Snug your screws down with whatever tool that you feel appropriate. This is a little bit big of a tool to do this job, but I can't find my bit driver handle right now. Drop your hot end back in here. Now you've got this piece again. You've got it cleaned off. Got your piece screwed in there, and then this will just slip right down in here. The good thing about this is no matter where your carriage travels, it will swivel around. Now, as I was saying earlier, that this tube may have looked shorter to you. The reason I cut it off was because I could have went ahead and attached it, but it was kind of sticking out and it was flopping against the top and everything. So I cut just enough off of it so it reaches the furthest point away from this without binding up. Still plenty of slack in there. I'm now printing ABS at 40 millimeters per second, 230 degrees. The only time this hammers anymore is when it's running these two little cleaning beads down the front of the bed, and after that it's perfect. So hopefully that'll help you. You got any questions or comments about this modification, leave a comment down below. And thanks for watching, guys. Like, share, subscribe, all that kind of stuff.